record this, and so just for you to know, so just be aware of that it's being recorded. Don't do anything sensitive or any of that kind of thing. Okay. All right. So this is what we're doing.
Mute.
We're going to be looking at being powerful in a VUCA world. Now, VUCA is an acronym. So remember to turn your microphones off, everybody. VUCA is an acronym. VUCA. Somebody's got their microphone on. I can hear an echo. So if you turn your microphone off, everyone, the echo will disappear. So VUCA stands for V for volatile, U for uncertain, C for complex, and A for ambiguous. Now, this acronym was created by the US Army when they were training their people to be able to cope with things which are volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. So, but I think in today's COVID-19 world, this has a very sharp poignancy. It's very poignant. It really is absolutely true. Things are volatile, things are uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. So the question becomes, how does one, or what can one do, or how can one be so one can be powerful in this VUCA world? So that's the name of the question. That's the question that we're addressing. So now if we look at our current situation, don't know about you, but I suspect you're very much like me. And therefore, there will be all these anxieties and fears and concerns. Now we intend, Sanjay and I, that at the end of this seminar, you are freed up. You experience being freed up to be creative and fulfilled. That you shift from what we call ego to eco. Now, ego is where you are limited. You got a boundary around you. This is me, and outside of me is not me. So being able to shift from ego, from looking from the perspective of me, mine, and ours, to being able to look from a perspective of us, we, a bigger perspective. So you shift from ego to eco, and you see opportunities instead of seeing problems and difficulties and stops and barriers, which are there. Obviously there are difficulties, stops, barriers, problems, but you also see opportunities in the situation you currently find yourself in. And the last sentence is what I hope you really see, that you see the possibility of creating a new world system, a new world order. Not just your life becomes new, but the world becomes new, that the whole world has a new world system. Okay, so that's the intended outcome. That's what we intend we should produce. And so who are we, right? By the way, the slide deck was made for the two calls I had in India. Therefore, you see things written in Devanagari there. And the group of us who created this work, we call ourselves Global Transformation Champions. Sanjay, me, we are Global Transformation Champions, but there's a larger group of people. And our work, we consider that our work is to transform the consciousness with which organizations, society, and individuals operate. So what do we mean by transform? In Sanskrit or Hindi, it will be Rupantrit Karna. And the consciousness is the Chetna. So our work is to transform Rupantrit Karna, the consciousness, Chetna, with which organizations, societies, and individuals operate. That's our work. Now that was before COVID-19. We're continuing it in COVID-19 and beyond. But that's what we're interested in. That's what we are committed to. That's what we want to do. So let's get back to where we are now, right? So dealing with the disruption of COVID-19 or coronavirus. In this scenario, what are we up against and what are we dealing with? I'm assuming that this is what you're up against and dealing with, a certain level of anxiety, fear, fear of death, fear of your illness, fear of loss of loved ones, fear of loved ones getting ill. Certainly, fear and anxiety about loss of income. You look into the future and you see a dismal future, and there's this question going round and round in your head: how are we going to manage? How are we going to manage? Etc., etc., etc. So, if any of you are not in this space, forgive me, but this is for most of us who are in this space. We just want to throw the light on it. This is what's happening. So, if this is what's happening, can we face it without losing power? And the intention of the seminar is to enable you to be able to face it, to face whatever is the difficulty, concerns, anxieties, and fears that you are experiencing without losing power, without feeling I can't do anything, I'm powerless, is hopeless, is helpless. To be able to look it in the face. If you can look it in the face, it is what will transform how you see it, your perception of the situation and of yourself. So if we can look at our situation, the one we're afraid of, the one we don't like, the one we're anxious about, if we can look it in the face, we shift our perception of that situation and we shift our perception of ourselves. And we then see the situation and ourselves in a different light. Now, this is not theoretical. This is not a theory we're giving you. This is something we invite you to try in this seminar. Confront your fears, confront your anxieties, confront your concerns, and see if in the confrontation of it, without losing power, without getting afraid, without any of that, see if you can look at it, and if you do, see what happens. And I say, that situation will transform and your perception of yourself will transform. Will the situation be any different? No, there will still be COVID-19, you will still be locked down, and you still won't be able to go to work and earn money. But how you see the situation can change, okay? And when how you see the situation changes, then your ability to deal with it changes. Okay, so now let's look at, I'll give you a chance to interact in a few minutes, but let's look at a few things, okay? Anubhuti is perception. Perception is how we perceive something, how we see something. In shifting our context, that is in shifting our sandarbh from ego, silo, boundary, mine, ours, to eco. What is eco? Eco comes from a Greek word, like the word economy, ecology, ecosystem. Eco stands for family. And in India, we have extended families. In Greece, in the old days, they used to have large extended families. They all lived in a walled place and defended themselves against others, but the family. So each person in the family was expected to operate as the family, not as the ego, as the person, but to be responsible for the collective, for the whole world. Now we are applying this eco to the largest family possible, that is the human family. So to shift from ego to the human family, seeing it from that perspective, seeing it from that context. So when we can shift our context from ego to eco, we can create a new perception of our reality. We can then cause what we call a transformation. Rupantrit karna. There's a total transformation, like from what do you call it? What's the thing that comes before the butterfly? You know, the butterfly is, I forget. Caterpillar, yes. To shift from being a caterpillar to being a butterfly. That's a total transformation. That's what we mean by transformation. And that's what happens when we shift our perception. So what if instead of a time of fear, that this time is a time of fear and anxiety, what if we shifted our perception of it and we saw that it was an opportunity for transformation, a time for a state change, both for yourself as an individual, personal, and also for the world, worldwide, an opportunity for a state change for the world. I'm inviting you to shift from looking at your situation from ego to eco. I'll keep doing that as we go through these 2 hours. So ego versus eco. And by ego, we mean silo. Those of you who are in management speak and all that, you know all about silos, the production department, the sales department, the finance, the accounting department. They're not working together as a whole. So being able to shift from silo working, to working as a whole for the whole family. Okay, so now I'm going to stop the sharing and give you an opportunity to interact, to have a dialogue. Okay, so anything for you about what I've said so far? What do you see? What do you hear? What abouts? What ifs? All that.
Yeah,
So
can I
anybody
share?
can speak. Yes, anybody can speak. Just speak.
Okay, my name is Karan, and I'm from Mumbai. And buddy, if
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember me, we had done the forum in Dubai together in 2018.
Oh, you're one of the Dubai fellas, huh? The only forum I ever did in Dubai. Yes. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. So I was the part of that team. Which, yeah. So I'm running a business out here, and there's a lot of uncertainty everywhere. And today, just now, one of my employee just messaged me saying that the lockdown has been extended till 30th. So how are you going to do it now? And sometimes I'm
So
very
before you go ahead,
up to
where are
it
you?
and
Where are you right now?
right.
Are you in Mumbai? Okay, great. I don't know what's happening. You have to speak, otherwise we
So,
don't see your picture.
uh, one of my employees just messaged me saying that the lockdown has been extended till 30th. So now what are we going to do about it? I said, don't worry, I will give you a call. So sometimes I'm in a very high spirit and, thinking about things and doing things and gathering data and talking to people. And then there was how it is going to happen, what's so now, how it is to be done. A lot of phases a person goes through. So every morning you get up like, today is a day, come on, let's make most out of it. And then suddenly you're at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay, now what's the same regular lunch and sit down, let's sit down, let's see Netflix or something and go to sleep. So it's happening in
You keep swinging
the
from one
day.
extreme to the other, right?
That's what. So what I have found out to be my yes, that's what is happening with me.
Okay. And anything you have to say about what I said? Did you hear what I said?
Yes, the ego versus the eco.
Yeah, two things I said. One is ego, seeing it, shifting the way you see it from ego to eco. And before that,
Yeah,
I said you need to be able to get power, to be powerful. You need to be able to look into the face of the disaster without flinching. You have to be able to stand in
yeah,
front of the uncertainty, the volatility, the VUCA-ness, without losing
yeah,
any centeredness, without losing any power. Those are the two things that are. So first of all, you need to be able to do that. Then you shift your context from ego to eco. So are you able to do the first one? Look at the future that's staring at you in the face without losing any power.
yeah. I'm able to do that.
Yeah. And when you do that, what happens?
the new ideas come into the mind, and you have to do this now. Now look at the opportunity, what is going to happen. The world is going to require a lot of services which
Right.
have to be taken care of the human species for that matter.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So
And those new opportunities, when they come up, if you see them from the perspective of, generally we have a tendency to see them from the perspective of ego. Oh, that'll be good for us, then I'll be able to do this, then I'll be able to do that,
yeah.
which at some point leaves you with a limitation. What if you
Yes.
actually shifted your view of it from ego to eco, to looking at it for the world? How is this going to be useful for the world? How is
Yes.
this going to make a difference to the world? Right? So that's my invitation to 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 try that on.
Okay.
Okay, great, good. Thank you for speaking up. Let's see
Thank you, buddy.
this.
Nice seeing you after so long time.
Yeah, nice to see you too. Great.
Fadi,
Now,
Jayashree.
yes, Jashi, go ahead.
Yes, so it's I'm so happy to be here, and I have a few friends from one from Paraguay, Matthias Duck, and
Ah,
Amar from Nepal,
ah,
and then a couple of other friends are from India. So I'm very happy to have these two people join in.
wonderful,
And
wonderful.
Captain Shantanu is an army veteran, and many others I've
Right.
invited. So happy to have them. So, Fadi, like for me, it's like what I'm in the presence of is the generosity of the human spirit. There is so many people who are in the charity mode right now. It's all
Mm,
about there are many people who are all about collecting some opportunity and providing some opportunity and giving it away, and giving away a part of themselves. And for me that looks like an exciting possibility, not just when there is coronavirus, but
yeah.
for an ongoing way of being. So I'm
Yes.
really excited to be here with you and to explore what it would look like if humanity was all about like that kind of contribution without
Brilliant.
experiencing a loss. you know
Brilliant. Brilliant.
yeah,
Thanks.
that's yeah, thank
Thank
you.
you. And what's the time in Paraguay at the moment?
Um, in Paraguay right now, it's 10:30 almost
Ten
in the
thirty at
morning.
night. In the morning. All right.
In the
All right.
morning, in the morning, yes. You guys tell us if this is going to be a good day.
Well, I should hope so. Very good. It's good to
I,
have you.
can I say something briefly?
Absolutely.
I've I've noticed that, I mean, there are exceptions, but I've noticed a lot of people that are and it's as if this situation is showing us that we're all in the same boat.
Hmm.
Uh, so people are like, because even if you would have a lot of money, uh, I mean, uh, you still have to somehow interact with the outside world, even if to get food, and so
Mm.
you're still exposed.
Yes.
Everyone. So we need to tack. I noticed that people are really are saying, and even if you would manage, we're a small country, if you would manage to tackle this issue in your own country or in a region, like you depend on other
Yes.
regions. So we have to work on this all together. That's
Yes.
there's and I've going back to what Jayashree said, we are together in a group that is interestingly very similar to the name that you have. We call ourselves global leprosy champions because we're
Ah,
all people who have
right.
experienced the disease ourselves, and 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 we've seen there are people that are extremely vulnerable in this situation, but on the other hand, we have seen so much empowerment, so much generosity, so much solidarity, people mobilizing. It's amazing. So and this is happening very locally, and then it's happening globally also. So it's amazing.
That's great, Matthias. Thank you very much. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for being on the call. Shantanu, you don't need to raise your hand. Just speak.
Hey, hi. Good evening, good morning to all of you.
Good morning.
So thanks, Jayashree, for inviting me over. I had a conflict, but since it was Jayashree, I said let me try to reschedule this so that I can attend this session. So I've been hearing you, and Ironically, I have been in conflicts and ops across during my army tenure, which was about 20 years back, in operations in conflict zones, and been part of certain operations in Africa and while the Chennai floods happened, uh, crisis situations. So, in a sense, we knew the enemy. Here, we do not know the enemy. It's an unknown.
Right.
It's an unknown unknown, as I put it.
Right.
And specifically in a VUCA world, that's one of the most difficult things. My question is a little bit different, and I don't know, uh, and I don't want anybody to be judgmental on it, but because it's humans, I don't want to say it. So I have been like 20 plus years in the corporate sector. Before that, hardcore in the operations in the army. And my space has been in the digital eco world. I have been working remotely for the last 9 years across geographies. What I feel is that what this gentleman just said, ki both the sides of the coin have the empathy map quite similar today. My client is as disturbed as the customer and anybody else. So the problem, it's no longer an isolated bushfire in Australia versus a flood in Chennai versus a crisis in China. It is a common empathy map that draws across the spectrum of people that is talking. However, and this is my personal observation, uh, where do you feel the line should be drawn between ethical decision making when both the options seems ethical?
That's an eternal ethical dilemma, isn't it?
Yeah,
I don't think
I need
I
to.
would take on answering that question. I think it's to each their own. I think
Okay,
you just have to be responsible for the choices you make, right? Whatever choice you make.
okay.
Okay. All right, great. Very good. Thank you very much, Shantanu.
Thank you.
Okay, somebody else. We'll have a couple more people before we move on. So who'd like to share or ask a question? Yes, please. Anil Kumar.
Hi, Freddie. Nice seeing you after a long, long time. Yeah, I did the first seminar with you in 1983, October in Mumbai.
Ah,
And after that, I've participated with you in Bangalore many times in forums and advanced course, etc. Well, answering your question regarding the two things that you said. Well, I run a business and we have a lot of liabilities which we can meet if our business is continuing.
yes.
And the fear that I face right now is, what if this extends for a long time? How am I going to manage the liabilities which continue to exist?
Yes.
I'm able to face that fear many times consciously, but sometimes the fear catches up and sort of disturbs me. And at the end of this program, I'm confident that the times when I'll be able to face it confidently will be more than the other one. And the other one, like you pointed out, moving from ego to eco, even that comes up to me when I think of our employees and the people who are not as well placed as we are fortunate to be in right now. And I'm able to visualize now as it is not just about us, but it's about the whole world. Thanks for opening that up.
Great. Very good. Thank you for sharing. One more person before we move on to the next part of what I want to do. By the way, just speak up because I can't see all the screens. There are 3 screens here.
Hello, Ferdy, I'm Narayan.
Yes, Narayan.
You remember having spent some time with our family when you were there on a vacation sometime in the 90s. I don't remember exactly. I did the advanced course with you. And then I am happy that Anil was able to log me in today for this seminar.
Yes.
For me, this has been a real, some sort of an opening for me, that they at some point of time maybe have disregarded our relationship to nature actually. What we see today is actually a repercussion that somewhere we have got disconnected with the actual reality. Number one. Number two, there are too many things which had never come in our sight. For example, the migrant labor who have been moving here and there. and also the uncertainty about the business that I'm running actually. So it is not just about a small individual or my business. Now it's becoming somewhat more global, and I'm able to see that this cannot be just tackled at individual level, but contributing at individual levels probably will make a contribution at the universal level also.
Very good. Yes, yes, quite possibly. Especially if you do it inside an eco context, universal context. Great. Very good. Is that it? Anything else for you?
Yeah, that's all. Thank you. So I
Very good.
look at this as an opportunity probably to see how we can become more transparent. Like there is too much of opaqueness between people, communities, countries. So this is an opportunity to see how transparent we can become,
Very
both
good.
as individuals and as humans.
Very good. Thank you very much. Okay, I'm now going to go back to sharing my screen and I want to show you something, okay? All right, you see this picture? Can you see that there are two mountains? There's one person here on this side on the left-hand mountain. There's a person climbing at the back to get to the top. And then there is a ravine. And then there is another mountain on the other side, okay? So if we consider that the mountain on the right-hand side is the future, and the mountain on the left-hand side is the past and is ourselves and the present. And we are standing here. This is the COVID. We are standing here. We've got a whole past behind us. We polluted the environment. We did a whole bunch of other things. And today you can go to Jalandhar and you can see the Himalayas. It's so clear, right? And you go to India Gate and you take a photograph from the past and you take a photograph from today, and you can see crystal clear the difference of the nature of the pollution that's there. The air in Delhi has become pure and clean. The air in Bombay has become pure and clean. So all that past, that's all a past accumulation of us. We'll see in a bit what it is, but it has created a whole load of problems for us. Now, COVID didn't come from there, but COVID is highlighting for us what we haven't really looked at very clearly. So if we say we are at this point, I say that something like a new future is wanting to happen. If you examine the situation from the perspective of what new future for me, for my family, and for the world is knocking on the door so it can happen, right? So we can consider that possibility. I conduct a program called Leadership from the Emerging Future. And what my program's about is developing leaders who can listen for a future that wants to emerge, that hasn't emerged yet, and then be like a midwife or support that future into coming in existence and work with a team of people so that they can make it happen. That's what I do in the work I do with people in the leadership development and executive coaching work that I do with people. But I'm now applying it to this current situation. In this current situation, right now, consider there is a future that's wanting to happen. And that future has never happened before. So let's have a look and have a look at a few things first and then come back to this point again, okay? So the first thing I want you to look at is, you see these three little hills or mountains you can see? If you look at the world today, the world that you and I live in before COVID, there were lots and lots of problems. And there are these three problems that I'm focusing on right now that I think most of us will agree that those are the problems we have, but we don't agree on how to solve it. That's the problem. That's the situation. So we have these three problems that we face, three challenges that we face. I call them three divides, like a divide, like a separation, like a gap. So there is an ecological divide, and there is a social divide, and there's a spiritual divide. The ecological divide is between ourselves and nature. The social divide is between ourselves and the other. And the spiritual divide is the one that affects all of us, which is the divide between ourselves and ourselves. So if you look at the ecological divide, you will see that we have been having a war with nature. And we have been having a war with nature because we are absolutely certain that the secret to success in business and for money and in the world is growth. Growth, 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 growth. Everybody looks at, but we're not growing. We should be growing. Why are we not growing? Well, here's the problem that no one has really looked at. In order to grow, we are going to use the planet. And, we're going to use iron ore, this, that from the planet, right? Now, you cannot have unlimited growth based on the planet, can you? Unless you go to the moon or you go to the stars and you go somewhere else and get some more stuff from there. But if you got this one planet and you keep growing, 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 at some point, you're going to be in trouble, which is where we are right now. We have one planet and this is one planet, the inner circle. And we are using resources 1.5 times the regeneration capacity of the planet right now. So what's inevitable? The plane will crash. You can't just keep going up and up and up. At some point it has to come down. It'll crash. Now, people have been, before this COVID thing happened, people were talking about climate change, this, that, this, that, this, that. Now this COVID thing has come. So that has kind of been displaced a bit. But that is a situation we face where there's a separation between ourselves and nature. Then the second divide is between ourselves and the others. So this is what I mean by the second divide. This is a bus. In not Indian buses, but other buses, European buses or American buses, can hold 62 people. 62 people. 62 people are the amount of people, as many as can fit into one bus. 62 multi-billionaires own more than 50% of the population of the planet. They call them the 1%, remember? They own more wealth than the bottom half of the planet put together. Now, this is causing a major problem. And as a matter of fact, you're starting to see it right now. Right now with this COVID crisis, you can see it. In New York, yesterday, 2,000 people died in New York City, and most of the people who died from the Bronx. They didn't die from Manhattan, which is the richer part of New York. They died from the poorer part of New York. The poorer people are more badly affected by COVID-19 than the richer people are. Now, if you look at India and you look at all our migrant labor, where are they at the moment? They got jammed up in some camps. They're not able to go home. And even if they go home, they'll be taking the disease to their home. How do they earn their living? They're daily wage earners. If they don't work for a day, they can't eat. Somebody will feed them for a while, but that'll be it. What about their family? What about their children? All the money they used to send, that's not going to happen. That's not going to work. I heard that they've sealed off Dharavi in Bombay so that nobody can get out of the place, which is a good idea. But then what about the people in there? There is no distances, what social distancing possible there. And what happens to them? See, this is the what do you call it? The social inequity in society. Most of you have servants who work in your house. Some of you are good enough to pay them salary even though they're not coming to your house. But what's happening in the slum where they live? Because most of them do live in the slums. In the slum where they live, what is happening to them? So there is something that's going, and then you look at the rich countries and the poor countries. Once again, you see the gap. So anyway, there is a gap between those who own the wealth and those who the 99%, the 1% and the 99%. There's a big gap there. And then, sorry, I should go back again. And the third divide is the divide between ourselves and ourselves. What do I mean by that? I mean, most of us are a noodle in someone else's soup. You know what I mean? Don't be a noodle in someone else's soup. Someone else, you work for someone. So you have to do what they tell you to do. You're not happy with what you do. You work very, very, very hard. And you're working hard so that you can pay your EMI or you can pay your rent and you can pay the school fees and you can do this and you can do that. There's no freedom. There's no self-expression. You don't feel like you're doing what you really want to do. You feel, what's the point? In the year 2010, more people committed suicide, that is, they killed themselves in the world, than were killed by others. More people killed themselves than were killed by others, including wars, famines, natural disasters, all that. You put all that together, the people who died and the people who killed themselves, more people killed themselves than were killed by others. So, whoa, what does that do? That is because we've got a separation between ourselves and ourselves. We are not connected to our deep inner selves. So there are at least these three, we won't talk about others, but there are these three divides. Now, if we want to transform the planet, we need to address all three of these at the same time. You can't address them piecemeal, silo. We'll address the climate change, then we'll address the difference in inequity and how in the inequity that is existing on the planet and between the rich and the poor. Or we'll go to the ashrams and we'll meditate and get connected to ourselves and to God. It needs to be done all together. Now, I don't know how many of you are economists, but if you are, there is an old economic theory that is going around for about 150 years or so, which is all about the market. And if you have more of something and you have less of something, competition and this and the whole theory of economics, right? That theory of economics has led us to the disaster that we are in, the ecological disaster that we are in, and also the social disaster that we're in. And it will just get worse. In 2008 and 2009, the bankers, the senior bankers in the US, fleeced everybody. They sold corrupt bonds and shares or whatever they did. They messed it up. Afterwards, each of the countries came in and saved the banks. They put money into the bank. They saved them. And like 5 years later, the same people who created the mess keep getting their bonuses. But the people who didn't create the mess, the common people, the Aam Aadmi, they have to pay for it. They have to pay for it through austerity, to having the services cut down, to not being able to do the things they want to do, all that. Now, I heard the other day, there's a Cambridge economist named Kate Raworth. She talked about something called a donut economics. In the donut economics, a donut has a hole in the middle and a ring. Outside the ring of the donut is the ecology and the world. You have to take care of the ecology and the world. And inside the ring of the donut are the people, humanity. You got to take care of humanity. So the economy has to stay inside that donut. If it stays inside that donut, that's a sustainable way of managing our economy. And that's not based on growth. Can't be based on growth because growth is a fallacy. So anyway, I'll leave you to explore that. It's called donut economics. It seems Amsterdam as a city is going to experiment with that model. So hopefully some new experimentation will happen that'll alter the situation. People are experimenting with something called universal basic income, universal basic income is you get a certain amount of money from the government because you're a citizen. Whether you're rich or poor, you get that money. And then you can do whatever you want to do with that money. You can spend it any way you want to. Now, can you just imagine each of you got a certain chunk of money from the government for being an Indian or being a Bahraini or being something, right? Do you think that will be useful for you? Do you think you'll be able to put that money to use to do something you've always wanted to do? Well, most people will tell you that's not possible because money doesn't grow on trees. Well, if money doesn't grow on trees, then I wonder where the UK government is going to bring all the money to make up for all the billions they're spending, and where Trump is going to bring the money to make up for all the billions he's spending. And hopefully the billions that Narendra Modi will also spend to save us. So there has to be a different way to look at money. There has to be a different way to look at the economy so that it is equitable. And equitable means it is equal. It takes care of everybody and it doesn't damage the environment. So consider that because of the way the situation is now, and because of the tons of money that governments have put into it, I think even the Indian government has put in a good amount of money, but definitely the UK government has put in billions and the US government has put in billions. It is going to have to find a way, and the European Union possibly will also put in billions. They'll have to find a way to make it work without putting the debt onto ordinary people, which is what they did in the past. Oh, we borrowed this money to save you, now you have to pay for it back. Because they're not going to tolerate it. The public is not going to tolerate being burdened with debt, even though this time it was because of COVID. So I'm talking a lot. I'll give you a chance to share in a bit. Okay, let me just establish this thing. Right, I talk about this, I talked about that. Okay, good. So now I'm just going to stop sharing and just open it up for interaction. What do you have to say? What do you see about what I said? And whatever. Let's hear from you. Remember to just talk. Put your microphone on if you're talking, otherwise I can't hear you.
Yeah, hi Freddie. It was my aunt Jayashree who told me about this webinar, and I'm quite glad that I
Have you got your video
got this
on?
opportunity.
Have you got your video
Yes.
on?
Yes.
You do? Because I
Yes.
can't see. Ah,
Yes.
now I can see. Now I can see. Yes,
Okay.
please.
Yeah, so it's the alternative economic theory that you put in, the donor theory, is very interesting. And this is something which, you know, I have always questioned. And second, the three mountains that you showed, I think personally, I beg to differ because when you said that we have to address all the three together, I feel that if you address the spiritual divide, the rest will be taken care of. That's in my humble opinion. That's about it.
Yeah, but most people would disagree with you because
Well, I'd love to hear the counters to that.
I don't think it's worth having an argument about that. What we're
Okay.
talking about
Yeah.
is the economic model. Basic
Yeah.
centerpiece of everything is the
Yeah.
economic model in which the world is existing.
Yes.
And that economic model is causing, number one, it's causing inequity. And number
Yes.
two, it's causing ecological damage. That is
Yes,
what it is doing. And
Yes.
sitting on the Himalayas and meditating on it is not going to make any change to it.
No. But what I'm saying is, if you are a spiritual seeker, then you will never do anything if you are connected to yourself.
The spiritual speakers are not doing anything. They're doing good stuff.
No.
They're doing all right, but they're not affecting the world positively.
No, what I'm trying to say here is that as an individual or as a group of, I mean, I can speak only for myself, but I'm saying as an individual, if you're connected to your deeper self, you will never harm nature or neither will you see others as separate from you. I mean, you will always
That's
work from a point
absolutely
of,
true. That's
yeah, that's
absolutely
what I'm
true.
trying to get at. I'm not
But,
trying to, yeah.
but there are enough people who are not seekers, enough
Yes,
people who are not
yes,
spiritual, who will keep on
yes,
damaging the environment
that's
and
true.
damaging, causing inequity on the planet. So we'd like to
Absolutely.
address the inequity and the damage of the planet, uh, and those who want to spiritually do their spiritual practice, great. But I think it's also possible in dealing with the inequity and in dealing with the ecological challenge, you can also become a spiritual person. You don't need to go to the Himalayas and meditate to become a
No,
spiritual person. You can do
no.
it. You can do it by shifting your perspective from ego to eco right here in the world. I'm not stopping you from going off and doing anything else, but I'm saying it's possible to do it right here, right now,
I
in the world.
also, yeah, Freddie, but the fact that every spiritual seeker is not, I mean, I don't agree with this, you saying that a spiritual seeker is a person who goes off and meditates in the Himalayas. No, absolutely not. A spiritual seeker can be a person who's working, who's living in this world, meeting everyday challenges, and yet doing what he can,
Okay. Okay. Is it all right for
from,
you if we continue to work on the other two?
of course, I'm not against
So if you
that.
got
I'm
your
just saying,
point, you got your
yeah,
point
that's it.
that
Yeah,
if everybody did that, that'll be great. But I
yeah.
would
But like you
encourage
said, you are
everyone to
right.
work on all three.
Yeah, you're right. There are very few who are spiritual
Yeah,
seekers,
yeah,
actually.
exactly.
So we really need
Exactly.
to address the other two mountains as
We
well.
do. We do.
Yes.
And there are more than three. There are about 7 points, but they stem from these 3 points. So,
Okay.
for example, there is the way we are governance. There is a way we are educated, education. There are a whole lot of other points that come in that stem from
Okay.
these 3 points. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm looking, and also Neeraj, right?
No, I'm Renu. That's my son's
Okay,
ID
he's
I'm
your
using.
son. Okay, Renu. It's also what I'm addressing here is a collective approach, not an
Yes.
individual approach, but a collective approach that we, as a society,
Yes.
as a group, as the world together can do something. And what I want to do is, I think you brought us to the point. I want to show you a little video, everyone. Okay, and then we'll take it from there.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you for expressing yourself. I do appreciate what you said.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay. Here we are. So now, okay. I'm going to start the video. If you don't hear the sound, just interrupt, okay? This is, let me set it up. This is the video of when man first went to the moon. American guys, when they went to the moon, they didn't land on the moon, but they circled the moon. And as they were circling the moon, they started to look and they saw the earth from outside the earth. No, if you won't see the earth unless you go outside the earth, right? You won't see the earth the way the earth is in the heavens. So they saw that and they were really shocked and surprised by it. So they turned their camera around so that they shot those pictures of the earth and streamed it back to the earth. And we on the earth began to see ourselves the way we could be seen outside. So I'm going to put on the video, and after that we'll take some sharing, okay?
In 1968, Apollo 8 went to the moon. They didn't land, but they did circle the moon. And I was watching it on television, and at a certain point, one of the astronauts casually said, "We're going to turn the camera around and show you the Earth." And he did. And that was the first time I had ever seen the planet hanging in space like that. And it was profound.
I think that for me, like for many other people, it was quite a shock. I don't think any of us had any expectations about how it would give us such a different perspective. I think the focus had been, we're going to the stars, we're going to the other planets, and suddenly we look back at ourselves and it seems to imply a new kind of self-awareness.
One of the astronauts said, when we originally went to the moon, our total focus was on the moon. We weren't thinking about looking back at the Earth. But now that we've done it, that may well have been the most important reason we went.
I can only describe what I've seen. You know, looking down at the Earth and you see that line that separates day into night slowly moving across the planet. Thunderstorms on the horizon casting these long shadows as the sun sets. And then watching the Earth come alive, and you see the lights from the cities and the towns.
The events you see from space, like flying over thunderstorms, looking at them from the top, were spectacular. Like a fireworks show going on, and you're looking at it from the very top.
You know, shooting stars going below us, or you know, dancing curtains of auroras. It's just very hard to describe all the, you know, the colors, the beauty, the motion.
My job as lunar module pilot was to be responsible for the lunar module itself and responsible for the science on the moon. So when we started home, I had a little more time to look out the window than the other guys because most of my responsibilities were completed. We were in a particular mode called the barbecue mode. So we were flying like this and rotating like that. What that caused to happen was every 2 minutes, a picture of the Earth, the moon, the sun, and a 360-degree panorama of the heavens appeared in the spacecraft window. And I had studied astronomy and I had studied cosmology and fully understood that the molecules in my body and the molecules in my partner's bodies and in the spacecraft had been prototyped in some ancient generation of stars. In other words, it was pretty obvious from those descriptions we're stardust. Well, that was pretty awesome and powerful, particularly since I had a little more time at this point to be reflective and to think about it.
When we look down at the Earth from space, you know, we see this amazing, indescribably beautiful planet. It looks like a living, breathing organism, but it also, at the same time, looks extremely fragile.
Because you go outside on a clear day and it's the big blue sky and it's like it goes on forever, right? And how could we possibly, you know, put enough stuff into it to fill it up with things that really change it? And yet you see it from space and it's this thin line which is just barely hugging the surface of the planet.
Anybody else who's ever gone to space says the same thing, because it really is striking and it's really sobering to see this paper-thin layer and to realize that that little paper-thin layer is all that protects every living thing on Earth from death, basically, from the harshness of space.
There's this very poetic concept that a lot of people express, that there are no boundaries from space. And I've heard a lot of my astronaut colleagues say that. Unfortunately, it's not true. You do see boundaries. They're mostly the result of human impact. You can see erosion, clear cutting of forests, and you know, it's a long litany of environmental impact that we've had on our planet, and that's something which, when you see it from a cosmic perspective, makes you really appreciate the concept of spaceship Earth and that we're all here together.
we humans are responsible for ourselves. And if we are endangering our future, then we've got to learn how to do it differently and to go forward into a sustainable period. And right now, that seems very difficult to see how it's going to be. But we've got to work on it.
When I was above the space station, looking down at the space station and looking down at the, against the Earth, and seeing this, amazing accomplishment, I was thinking, wow, there was 15 nations that worked together to build this amazing orbital complex in space. And if we can, take these 15 nations and do this amazing accomplishment, imagine what we can do by working together, by setting aside our differences for a common goal to overcome some of the challenges facing our planet.
We have this connection to Earth. I mean, it's our home. And I don't know how you can come back and not, in some way be changed. It may be subtle. You see differences in, different people in the just general response when they come back from space. But I think collectively, everybody has that emblazoned on their memories, the way the planet looks. You can't take that lightly. It really, you realize that you've been blessed by the opportunity to see that.
It really does look like this beautiful oasis out in the middle of nothingness. If you have a chance for your eyes to adjust and you can actually see the stars in the Milky Way, it's this oasis against the backdrop of infinity, of this just, enormous universe behind it. And it's, really a very moving experience to be able to see that with your eyes.
You look back at it and it's placed perfectly from the sun to take care of us, and you kind of take that reverse roll on about, okay, well, we need to be taking care of it too, so that it can continue to do that for us. And I don't know how you can't have a greater appreciation for it after you see it that way.
Okay. So, anybody like to share something from what you saw? Yes, please go ahead and speak.
Yeah, Freddie, this is Rohit here. I was invited by Rashmi to join, and I'm probably getting you for the first time.
Right.
And really great to listen to you. And I think, what you're shown, what this video from the perspective, what I see is this is going to be a new world order. Yeah, I think this is going to be a new world order for us. And I'm positive that human beings are adaptive, and we will be adapting to this new world order. And for me, I think what is most important is that we will have to probably get new skill sets to be this new world order. The earlier we accept and adapt ourselves, I think we'll be more tuned to live into this new world order.
Very good. Very well said. Thank you very much. Yes, somebody else. Somebody raised a hand, and I.
Yes.
Yes, please, Anil Kumar, Mrs. Kumar, go ahead.
Veda. This is Veda.
Veda, yeah.
I met you long back in 1983 in Mumbai. There was always a discomfort and fear underneath in the belly. Whenever I would read the newspaper, and we knew that the things were going wrong, but were feeling helpless, continuing to goal sets that we would set only in the direction of amassing more. And this was sort of, I was wondering where it would stop. I mean, how would things ever change? And I think COVID has been a blessing, because never expected such an economic standstill, in fact, a lockdown. Because I heard that the last lockdown was only in 1918, in fact, and I don't think anybody is living today. My father is living today. He was born in 1920, and naturally he would never have seen such a thing, in fact. I'm really happy. There's a surge of happiness that I'm experiencing, that yes, there is something very, very, very positive for us to look forward to, where we will, the three changes that you have mentioned, I mean, that is really going to be a beautiful gift for the children and the coming generations.
Very good. Very good. Thank you so much. Yes. Somebody else.
Can I add up? I'm
Yes, please.
Sanguni.
Niranjan. Sorry, who was that?
Yes. Sanguni.
Let me first have Niranjan, then we'll have you, okay? Go ahead, Niranjan.
Hi. Uh, Thank you. This is Niranjan. I was invited by Mr. Jagdish, I think, online. Uh, I like the idea which they said in the video previously. What they said was, if 15 people could create such a huge thing and if we could achieve such a beauty, then what the entire planet came together and
Yes.
what if we could achieve something great?
Yes.
So, okay, you previously spoke about sustainable economics. Yes, we understand it. What I would relate to this as, in our system, we have hierarchies. So, how do we generate something great? Okay, we work for our money. We work for money. So, what is the other alternate which we can create in economics so that they work for that, not just for the money?
Well, there is not a real problem with money. I think there's a problem with the model of economics that we work inside of. In the model that we work inside of, it is focused on, first of all, it is the driver is growth. We got to grow. Every company has got to grow. Every country has got to grow. The GDP has got to grow. This has got to grow. That everything is growth, growth, growth. Nobody, especially the people who are corporate types, you cannot, or even entrepreneur types, you cannot have any conversation with them that doesn't have growth in the background and a measure of growth. Now that is like the people back in the old days when they said the earth was flat. The earth was flat. And you couldn't have any other conversation with them about the earth being round. That's the situation we are in right now, called growth, growth, growth. It's obvious you cannot, the growth is not sustainable. It's obvious there needs to be another model, but people are so much in that, no, 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 it's got to be growth, got to be, but they cannot even see that they're going to fall off the mountain if they keep growing, right? So one is education. People need to be educated on what doesn't work, as a matter of fact, that there are things that don't work. And the growth economy, the growth notion has led to the ecological collapse, but it also led to the division between man and man, the economic, rich and poor. And it's not that rich and poor division is not a new phenomenon. It was there from the time of the kings. The kings used to own all the land, and they'll give it to their their lords, right? They'll give this land, that land, that land, that land. Then came the Industrial Revolution. When the Industrial Revolution came, it wasn't only the princes and the kings who would be the big guys. They became princes of industry. So industrialists became the big guys, and they started to run things. And the people no longer had to work in the fields; they could work in the factories. But once again, the whole thing was on the benefit of the owners of businesses until there came trade unionism. And when trade unionism came in and trade unions came in, then what happened was they had to take into account the people who worked for them, the number of hours they worked, whether child labor was allowed or not, all that. All those rules and regulations came in, and health and safety and all the other rules and regulations came in. Now, then, of course, came Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan, and they decided to, no, 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 that doesn't work. Competition is the deal. Expose it all, open it all, unregulate the banks, unregulate everything. And the unregulation of the banks led to the crisis, the banking crisis that we have right now. And right now, there is this kind of what they call neoliberal idea and notion of economy that is also causing a massive amount of problems. Like you manufacture cheap in India or somewhere, Thailand or something, and you sell it expensive in the other place. Right now, we are seeing the impact of those long, there's no manufacturing in the UK. So much so that car repair, the guys who McKellen guys, the guys who work on making cars for racing, they are now started making ventilators and things like that. Germany, which still has an industrial base, was managed to go ahead and do it more. So there is something wrong with the thinking. The thinking is muddled. The thinking is wrong. And so long as it kept going up and up and up, and people kept getting more and more money in their pocket, they just allowed it to go. But now, as who was it? Mrs. Kumar said, Veda said, there's a wake-up call. There's a wake-up call because that is no longer sustainable. So the question becomes, and I think who was it who just now spoke before you, who said something about that we are going to...
Niranjan.
Niranjan, right.
Yeah.
No, Niranjan spoke just now before Niranjan. Who was it?
Veda.
Veda, before Veda, sorry, before Veda. Anyway, the gentleman who said, we'll have to learn new skills and competencies.
Yeah, that was Rohit.
Right. Yeah, we have to learn new skills and competencies and to get ready for the 21st century. Even if COVID hasn't come around, we were going to have the crisis of artificial intelligence. We are going to have the crisis of so many other new disruptions that were already coming around, which meant that nobody can have a job for life. Not everybody will have a job. Then what happens? Then how does a person take care of his family if he doesn't have a job? That whole thought of you've got to have a job to take care of your family, you got to work for someone else to take care of your family, that is up for rethinking, was up for rethinking before COVID came in. And now COVID's come in, and now the amount of money that has been thrown on it, when they have enough time to breathe and look at it, they'll see that they cannot go back to business as usual. So then in that new world, what will be required is new skills, new leadership styles, new competencies, new ways of doing things that we've never done before. The program we run, Sanjay and myself and the other people, it's called leadership. It's a 21st century leadership model. It's leadership from the emerging future. We are saying that there is a future that's wanting to emerge, that is going to emerge. And if you can sense what that future is before it emerges, then first of all, you'll be the first responder. You'll be right there when that happens. Second of all, you're going to need new skills and new competencies. One of the skills you're going to need is to be able to work with a group of equal leaders. Not one leader who's on top of everything and tells everybody what to do. It's called cooperative, collaborative, co-creative leadership. So you're going to have to learn skills of working with other people, dialoguing with them, being able to take on their ideas and give them your ideas, being able to create something that never existed before by putting together the intelligence of many people and the ideas of many different people so that you come up with new solutions that never existed before. And of course, COVID-19 has made it very much sharper and very much more poignant. We are going to have to come up with solutions that have never come up before. We'll come up with a vaccine, and in the old days, whoever came out with the vaccine will clamp on it so that they can charge the highest possible price and say it's because of our research and development effort. That is not going to fly anymore because too many people all over the world have been affected by this. So there are so many things that are going to change, which if your mindset hasn't changed, if your view of how life is and how it could be hasn't changed, you'll be left far behind. So you're going to need to educate yourself in how to be, how to operate, and how to be a leader in the 21st century. And COVID has made it just sharper, just clearer. So now we kind of digressed. Why I showed you the video was so that you can see the world a little differently than how you've seen the world before. So is there anybody who would like to share about what they saw? Yeah, Chandrika, it's good to see you. Go for it.
After seeing the video, I really as you said, my relationship to exist itself.
Can you shift your screen a little bit because the top of your head is cut out? Yeah, that's better. That's better. It was, and now we can't see anything. Yeah, now. Yeah, go ahead. Chandrika, are you stuck? I mean, is your screen stuck?
Just disconnect.
Hello?
Yeah, you go ahead to someone else.
But just turn your video off and talk. Chandrika? Yeah. Yes, this is better. Go ahead. Now we can't hear you. You are speaking, you're using an iPad, are you? Mobile, yeah. Yeah, hold the mobile closer to you so we'll hear you. Yeah, go ahead.
What I saw is like my relationship to myself has shifted.
Great.
It's like universe, I'm a part of it, and it's in a bigger plan. What's happening now?
I didn't get the whole sentence, Chandrika. Can you hold the thing to your mouth so you're speaking into it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah. What I saw is that I'm a part of a bigger plan.
Yes.
And I'm seeing a small portion of it that I'm getting agitated, like why this is happening. But I really see a bigger plan that I'm a part of it, let go of that.
So let me see if I can say it back so that we see if you got it correctly. You're part of a bigger plan. You're not the small little person on your own. There's a bigger view, there's a bigger plan. And if you start focusing on the bigger plan rather than the smaller you, it is more powerful for you, right? Yeah, that's very good, Chandrika, and it's really good to see you. I'm glad you could come on this. Lovely. Great. Thank you. Thank you. Somebody else?
I'm Dr. Sanguni.
Yes.
Ready? Can you hear
Yes.
me?
Yes,
Yeah.
I can.
I'm
Go
from
ahead.
Bangalore.
Yes, Dr. Sanguni.
And so just I was, GDP took up the issue of economics. For the past year, I was talking to people around GDP and what is happening in growth. You're looking at manufacturing growth only. And then, as you said, education is important because we can say that, yeah, this is what to be done, but we have to educate all around us so that we can move forward in the area in which we are lacking. So that's not happening. As you, all the points which you pointed out is the one which I'm also looking into and working with them. But we have to educate the politician rather than looking at the people individually.
I've got a slightly different view, Sanguni. I think we have to educate the general public.
That should move the politicians.
I think, rather than the politicians. The politicians reflect the general public. After all, politics means public. And if the public thinks a certain way, the politicians will think that way. More and more people start to question this business of growth. More and more people start to question why do we have to be governed in the way that we are governed? By that I mean there is no democracy in the governance of our schools, in the governance of our banks, in the governance of our businesses. The model is not democratic. It needs to be more democratic. That is, more people have a say in it. So, as people start to demand that, you see what happened in Delhi is we've got the Aam Aadmi government, right? And they're really for the people. Now, I'm sure when you become a politician, you get corrupted finally. So let's not talk about that. But at least the ideals are good, and the ideal is the ideal of the common man. Good old Lakshman's common man. when the common man really starts, wants something, demands something, needs something, asks for something, it will happen. There's no question that it will happen. But really central to it all is this idea of shifting from ego to eco, being able to see from an eco perspective, and then developing the skills and abilities and competencies that allow you to be effective in this new world. And one of the skills is the skills of being able to sense something. You're sensing. Most of us live in a bubble. Google bubble, they call it. You know, the algorithm will take you to the same thing again and again and again and again and again. So we live in a bubble. So we are in a circular room, windows all over, but the windows all covered with screens. In the middle of the room, there is a projector, 3D projector that is projecting pictures and images and videos onto the screens all around the wall, right? All around the room. And what is being projected is the past. What is being projected is our opinions and our assessments and our judgments and our views. So we are living inside of that. We call that downloading. There's a downloading. Let the computers download it. Now we are living inside that. Now, if you want to get out of that bubble, the first thing you have to do is to walk to the end of the room, draw the curtain, and look outside. And outside, there is something other than what you see inside. We call that being able to listen or sense with an open mind. Open your mind. How do you know you're listening or sensing with an open mind? You're seeing something you don't agree with. You're hearing something you totally disagree with. Now, most of us, the moment we hear something we totally disagree with, we switch off. We don't examine this new thing that a person is talking about. So being able to hear things that you don't agree with, being able to engage with people that you don't agree with. Then the next step is, don't just look out through the window. You open the door and get out of the room and go out to where other people are and stand in their position and turn around and look at yourself from their perspective. Look at how you're operating and how you're behaving in your own system from their perspective. That's like going out on a spaceship and turning the camera around so you can see the earth in a way you've never seen it before. We call that open heart. Open your heart and get connected to the other with an open heart. And finally, there is an open will, because when you do all that, when you open your heart and you open your mind, then new ideas will come, new possibilities will come, new futures will come knocking on the door. But then you have the courage. At that time, you need to have the courage to step into those new futures, to consider those new futures. So there are three voices we have to watch out for. One is, Mukesh, will you please turn your microphone off? The first is the voice of cynicism, the voice of judgment. Second is the voice of cynicism that stops us from relating to people. And third is the voice of fear that stops us from trying something new. So when you start to deal with these three voices, what opens up is the possibility to hear the skill, the competency, to hear the new future that wants to emerge and that you can be a part of, and you can engage other people with you to be a part of that. And right now I was pointing to the new futures that are possible in the economic arena, in the world sustainable arena, in the self-to-self arena. There are lots of new possibilities that are available. So that's what we are, Sanjay and I are working on, creating leadership from the emerging future, we call that. We run that program, been doing it for the last 4 years, very effective. And we thought we'll give you a gift of doing the seminar for you in the midst of the COVID-19 crisis. Okay, so sorry, that's a long answer to, I don't know whether you asked any questions there or what, but I just wanted to share that.
Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you very much. Let's hear from somebody else.
But I just want to check up, share a thought. You were mentioning about the income or wealth inequality. Okay, my observation has been that in nature there is nothing called equality. I mean, there is distinctness. There is something large, something small, etc. Every time we have looked at economics in terms of equality, point comes is who is going to define that?
Well, I think that's a good
Inequality
argument,
is the
Jagdish. That is an argument the people who are in the Google bubble will make, because it's in the Google bubble you come up with those questions. You have to get out of the bubble and try a new model. Try the donut model. Instead of the model in which you are used to, try another model. If not donut, try another model and see what that opens up. Instead of re-firing the same old justifications for keeping us where we are. I say, Jagdish, we're in trouble. And if we don't change the direction in which we are going, we're going to end up where we are headed. That is what is going to happen. So some change is required. You will agree, I think, that some change is required. You may disagree about what the change should be. You're saying maybe we shouldn't have equality for it. Why not? Why should people not be equal to each other? We got the same blood going through our veins. We are all humans. We're not dogs and monkeys and cats and different hierarchy of beings out in nature. We're all of the same species, right? So right now, our brothers are stuck on sisters, mostly brothers, I suspect, are stuck, the daily wage earners who have traveled from their villages to come to Bombay and Delhi and Bangalore to work. They're stuck. They're stuck. They don't have any place to go to. They have no place to stay. They cannot do social distancing because they're stuck in 5, 10 people in one room. I don't see any justification in nature for that. Nature doesn't justify that at all. So I am purposely pushing back at you, and I apologize. You're welcome to have your view that you have, but I invite you to consider some other view, that maybe that is a thoughtless argument, and do some thinking and see whether you could come up with some other argument.
Sure, I will.
Okay, thank you so much
Open
for
up
being
myself.
generous
Thank
enough
you.
to listen to me. I appreciate that. Okay. Somebody else?
Can I come again? I'm Sanguni again, Bangalore.
Of course you can come again, but you have to pay extra, okay?
Done. Ferdy.
Okay, go ahead.
The interesting thing is, yes, Jagdish said about the equality. I wonder, again, GDP comes in the picture. All the time, if all nature, only tigers are available, nothing else available, how a tiger can survive?
I don't know about tigers, but GDP
No,
is bullshit. GDP is nonsense. It is rubbish. It's a ridiculous assessment, and enough people are starting to agree on that. When enough people agree on that, then it'll be thrown out of the window. Right now, it's the measure. Right now, you have to go by that. That is what everybody measures everything by. Not gross happiness product like Bhutan, but they're mostly measuring gross domestic product, which has nothing to do with reality.
That's true. That 1% you're talking about, 1% rich and others poor. If all are rich, then there is no 1%. Everyone is 1% then.
Well, also everyone is 100%. What's the problem with that?
100%. No problem. That's what I'm talking about.
I don't have any problem. I love it. I like to be one of the 100% and 1%. All that I'm saying is, how much money do you need to be happy and to live a great life? How many multi-billions do you need? You don't need that much. And when you're talking about inequity, there can be a certain level of inequity. But if the inequity is this big, but you're not one of the 1%, I promise you, and you're suffering that, but you're fooling yourself in thinking that, you're one of the lucky ones. Possibly. I'm overstepping my mark here. Sorry, I apologize if I am. Yes. Now, Niranjan, before we have you, can we have somebody who's never shared before? And then I'll have you after that. Okay, anybody else would like to say something here? In this wonderful conversation which the Indians are having in Bahrain, it'll be lovely.
Ferdy, I wanted Amar from Nepal to speak if he's
Amar from
listening in.
Nepal. There you go. You got no choice now. Jayashree has asked you to speak and you gotta speak. Amar, where are you? Say something. I can't see him because there are 3 screens here. Amar from Nepal. Are you on, Amar?
There is an Amar Rana, there is an Amar Rana, but I wonder whether the same person from Nepal.
One whole screen has
Anyway,
disappeared. So some
yeah.
people got tired of me and they just went away. There were 3 screens when I started. Anyway, let's have someone else. Thank you for inviting him. I think he may have gone off the line. Niranjan, we'll have you and then we'll have somebody who's not spoken before. Okay, go ahead. Niranjan?
Okay, you just said that you would be happy being one among everyone.
Yeah, I would. Wouldn't
Yeah,
you?
but
Wouldn't
okay,
you?
I would be. I
Yeah,
would be
very good.
personally.
Now,
So we
why are
were
we
just
having this conversation then?
we were just playing a game.
Don't play a
So
game. This is not a game. This is real life.
in
Let's
that,
not have a
okay,
conversation for the sake of having a conversation. Let's have discussion for the sake of having a discussion. Let's have a real conversation. And what I'm talking about is, can you see that you have been operating from ego? Maybe you can't, but if you can you just look at it from eco and see what happens? Can you do that, Niranjan? You know what I mean by ego and eco?
yes, yes.
So you want to say something about what is your understanding of ego and eco?
Uh, my thing was, okay, what is the system which pulls us towards, okay, I live as one among everyone. Okay, I do my work and
You're not going to
I stay
let
at
go
one
of it,
place. I
right?
don't.
You're not going to let go of
Yes,
the conversation you started with. You're going to continue with that same
yes,
conversation.
yes.
You see that?
So
Can you see that you're
yes,
not willing to let go of it?
yes.
Okay, so since you're not willing to let go of it, we have to allow you to speak. Go for it.
Okay, thank you. So what is that driving force which will be in our next new model? Like people would be
I
working.
have no idea because I don't know what the next new model is going to be. Do you?
No, no.
No. So what's the point in
You-
talking about it?
anything to start here?
Well, that's a good question. I'll throw it to you. If you're going to start a new model, what would you start from? You might come up with something really interesting. What would you start from? If you were in charge and you could create a new model, what would you create?
No, I haven't thought about it.
Then think about it. Take a moment.
Okay.
Take a moment. If you really had a choice and you could create it, forget about what everybody else says and nature and everything else. But if you could create a model, what would you create?
Buddy, can I come up with a point for Niranjan here?
No, please
Yes.
don't. No, I don't want to have this conversation anymore. I'm taking him away somewhere else. Now he's going to tell me what's the new model he's creating. What would it be based on? What
It
would
would
be
be based
better than what the model that we have right now? What would it be based on?
humanity,
Humanity? Okay, good. And what about humanity would it be based on?
living in harmony.
Living in harmony. Great, great.
Yeah.
Now, if we had a model which was about living in harmony, would that model be sustainable? Could it be sustained through time? See,
Yes,
this growth
yes,
model can't be sustained. At some point it'll collapse. But this
yes.
model, living in harmony, can it be sustained? And you just
I
said
mean,
yes, right?
it is about us to sustain it. I mean,
Oh,
how we carried the old economic system, how we carried the old system, and we let it sustain through us. So
yeah,
this is the
that is
new model
that is
which we'll have to create, and we'll have to sustain it.
yeah, that is true, Niranjan. You heard of MIT? MIT is Massachusetts Institution of Technology, sorry.
No,
And
no.
MIT was the, MIT in the US. MIT was the institution that started systems thinking, talked about there's a human being and the human being doesn't live by himself, he lives in a system. And the system in which the person lives shapes their actions, their thinking, and their everything else. So if you wanted to bring a culture change in an organization, organizational culture. They brought this notion of organizational culture. If you want people in an organization to change, then what you have to do is change the culture. When you change the culture, the individuals will change. So instead of working on the individuals, you start working on the culture and you start creating a new culture. Then obviously, Niranjan, the question becomes, how do you change the culture? But before you look at how do you change the culture, you could look at what is the new culture you want to invent. And you're talking about a culture in which there is harmony. You wanted to create a culture in which there is harmony. Well, let me give you an example of how one could possibly create that. This is your model, not mine, but I like it. So consider that people, you work in a company? Do you work in a company? A big company?
Yes.
Yeah. So you go for lots of meetings?
Yeah.
If you're
No,
a
not really.
manager, yeah, but if you're soon as you become a manager, you'll have to go into lots of meetings. So you go into all these meetings. The people are managers and all, they spend the whole time in meetings. Now what happens in meetings? One or four things happen. The first thing that happens is everybody says, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. Nobody disagrees except after they end the meeting, then they argue about it in the coffee shop and the coffee machine. And argue about how what a stupid guy. What? Never mind. We'll do whatever he says. He'll screw it up like that. But they won't say it straight away. They won't say what they feel. That's one. So there are a lot of organizations in which that's the culture, right? Then there are other organizations that support debate. They want people to debate. So if somebody says something and the other people are encouraged to say what they don't agree about that and all that, which is a very good idea, except it becomes egotistical. That is, after a while, if you don't agree with my point of view, then you don't like me. And I don't agree with your point of view. Which point of view is the right point of view? So everybody's arguing about their point of view and they attach their point of view and they attach to which is right and which is wrong. I'm still inside of your conversation about harmony, okay? Niranjan. So now that model doesn't work either, right? But that is also
Yes.
quite a prevalent model. It is very prevalent in politics, for example, and it's very prevalent in our families. Unless, of course, we got a father who's a dictator, in which case the first model is prevalent. There's another model. And this one is a model of dialogue. This is the one that you might be interested in. It's a model based on dialogue. In dialogue, you have a point of view and you don't give up your point of view, but you listen to other people's point of view without giving up your point of view. You start to consider what's good about their point of view, what works about their point of view, and then you share what works about your point of view. So now you're in dialogue. You say, oh, I got it. Your point of view is this. I got that. Now, I don't really agree with it because my point of view is this, but there are some things about your point of view that are pretty good. And I was wondering whether you know some things about my point of view, which are also, so now you're having a dialogue. You're getting what I'm saying? Hello, I can see you. You're getting what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah, and that might lead to
Yes.
harmony.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that might lead to harmony. And that might then lead to another model, which is the highest model, in which somebody gives an idea, the other person sees that idea completely and think it's great, and then adds something to that idea, which the first person accepts. And then someone else adds something else to that idea that makes it even bigger. And it's called co-creative, collaborative, or co-creative. And now you got people working in collaboration or co-creation. These are the skills that we need to learn if we want to live in the 21st century. If we want to be able to sense a future that's wanting to emerge and support it and bring it into fruition. So, now, don't you think that's a better thing to talk about?
Yes. Yes.
Than about the jungle law or something else, right?
No.
All right, great. Thank you so much for sharing. We've got another 15 minutes, am I right? Sanjay?
Yeah, around 20 minutes to go.
Another 20 minutes. Okay, so now let's have a lot of people who've not spoken at all say something. Say anything. Don't worry. I won't argue with you. I'll say, oh, very good. Thank you for sharing. We'll move on. So who'd like to share something?
Can I speak?
Yes, please, Navpreet. And if you can put on your video, that'll be even better. But if you can't,
In the
it's all right to
moment.
just speak. Navpreet, go ahead.
Okay, I thought the video is on. Sorry.
Yeah, it's not on.
Hi, Fadi.
Hi.
Okay. I'm on the mobile and I don't really know how to operate this.
Don't worry, just speak. Leave it alone for now. You're trying to get your video on. Don't worry about your video, just talk.
Very well. So video was on until now. Yeah. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Thank you.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So I was saying I did the forum with you in 1999 in Bangalore, July
Right.
99.
Right.
And Mona is the name I go by. So that's the short name. And it's really great seeing this group of people being back in the conversation now after so many years. And this is really opening up a lot of things that, are already there but unexpressed. It's there. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people out there are thinking the same, right? How
Right.
do we change the reality? The reality is shifting now. Many people are conscious of it. Things have completely turned upside down. Like, not going and seeing my mother who's old, who's 5 minutes away from my house, is an act of love. Because I don't want to, though as much as I want to go and see her, but I don't want to spread anything. And so not going and seeing her is an act of love. So things have just turned in many different ways topsy-turvy, right?
Yes.
So I'm sure a lot of people are thinking about how can I help, but we're not really aware. Like for me, I'm speaking for myself.
Yes.
Jay Shri came up with this Facebook group called Mitter, which is for volunteers, people who want to help the migrant workers and stuff. And I just jumped in immediately because it was like, okay, I really feel helpless. I want to help. But how do we help, right? And then somebody takes leadership and we do that. And it gives a sense of satisfaction because I think that's who we are. Who we really are inside is that we all recognize that we are one and we're all in it together, right? It's not about, I, me, myself. Of course, there are times when we've been like that, all of us in a rat race, in the corporate rat race, whatever, right? We've been I, me, myself, and my growth. But now we're coming to a bigger realization that it has to be all of us in it together. And I think that's what you're talking about as ego versus eco.
Yes.
And it really does strike a chord, and I think it's brilliant. I mean, I think there are many, many people who feel the same way, Fadi, but it's just that how do we organize those thoughts and get it together and get some leadership and get things moving? Because people will feel that way, but they won't know what to do. Like
Yes.
for me, for instance. So I think it's brilliant that, if there can be direction together for people like that.
Very good. Excellent. Navpreet, Mona, thank you very much for sharing that. Appreciate the thought. Okay, who's next? Remember, just start talking. Unless you're all talked out. You don't have anything else to say.
Hi, Farid. This is Vineet.
Hi, Vineet. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Yeah, I just refreshed going through all this again with you. Uh, I'm thinking, how would it be if there was a way that the current situation has a lot of negative connotation, but it does throw open a lot of paradigm shift.
Yeah.
What if we have to work so hard for everything that we're doing? What if our needs shrunk to where they are right now? What if we didn't need all the fancy cars and the shopping and everything else? And if we could really operate the way we are operating right now, like in a minimalistic fashion, it would be a great world, I thought.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, how would it be possible without the? How do you live in that kind of world without lockdown?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
very
So they're
inspiring.
forced to live that world because of lockdown, but it just became a natural way of living your life.
Yeah, with such little pollution, with the nature showing up, you can hear the birds chirping, the roads are clean. So, I'm just fancying to see this kind of world without the virus.
Yes, very good. Very, and I'm giving you, I'm saying to you that that is the future that's wanting to happen. Now, who knows, right? You can be cynical about it and say, what rubbish, human beings can never tolerate it. But what if we could? What if we did? Then what will happen? But even if we didn't do it wholesale, what if we did it 50%? What if 50% of the things we're craving after and running after, we stopped running after and craving after, right? What if we started to work from home more than we have to work from the office? Imagine the amount of pollution that will be reduced in Hyderabad, in Delhi, in Mumbai. And we have demonstrated that it is possible to work from home. And if people started to really, that is one thing we can take on, working from home.
Absolutely.
Right? And so there are certain things that we could immediately seize and live if we became mindful rather than thoughtless. We've been frenetic, thoughtless, running around like rats in a machine or something, and not paying attention to anything. What if we actually paid attention to stuff? Then something might happen. Great. Vanit, thank you for sharing that. And for everybody else, Vanit and I have worked together. I've worked at this company, bringing his principles to his people at work, made an enormous difference for them. And I'm really interested in having Vanit participate in this ongoing conversation, because if we want to transform the world, we have to transform business, because business has so much more power than society has or individuals has. And people spend a lot of their time at work. If their work became a way of making a difference, if their work became a way of contributing, then there'd be huge contribution to the planet. And I think Vanit has a unique opportunity, because he's the owner of a company, to be able to see how you could do that without losing any income, without losing any profitability. So that'll be really great.
Yeah, and just to add to some of the questions that people were asking, and is it possible to get driven by a new paradigm? It is. We've done a lot of work with Ferdy and his team, and it's had a very significant effect in how people are thinking. We still have a long way to go, but I think operating from the eco to from ego to eco has really actually benefited. The way people are approaching has benefited us in productivity, and really the peace within the team has gone up. So yeah, the Furry does great work with this program on the U Lab.
Great, very good, Vanit. Thank you very much. Okay, we still got another 8 minutes or so, I think, right? Or 10 minutes maybe. So who'd like to share? Who else would like to participate, engage in this conversation? Somebody who's not said anything so far.
Hi.
Yes, Mani.
Yeah, I'm new to you. Actually, first time I'm listening to you.
Yeah.
Don't feel I'm a little bit pessimistic, but see what you have been discussing. What I felt it was a little bit on very high ideals, maybe difficult to implement. For example, growth. You are talking about growth, but without doing growth, how many companies can work? See who can transform these companies according to you.
Well, according to me, one doesn't need to have growth in order to have profitability. And I think you would agree with that. Anybody would agree to that. Profit is important. Growth may not be necessarily important. A lot of companies have gone bankrupt, as a matter of fact, going for growth, borrowing a lot of money, going for growth. And now suddenly the cash flow is screwed up. The profitability, the margins are very small. The profitability is messed up. So sustainability has to do with margins. It has to do with profitability. It has to do with having a way of developing yourself and expanding, but that doesn't necessarily have to be growth. So there are other ways one can do things. and a sustain. If you had a company, Money, do you have your own company?
No, I work for a company.
Yeah, so assume you had your own company, right?
I'm
And
planning to have one actually.
right, so you have your own company,
Yeah.
and it's a niche company.
Mm-hmm.
That is, it works only in a niche market.
Okay.
So really, growth is not important for that company. For that company, service is important. Quality of service is important. The kind of clients they get. If he gets one new client in a year of the quality that he wants, then that'll make a huge difference. There are companies like that. There are banks like that. There are niche banks that only work with niche clients. So
but that one is a growth only, no? Even if I'm going to do one addition.
No, it's not growth. It may be a replacement of somebody who has fallen by the way, and they have to fall by the way. They're not going to stay with you forever. It doesn't have to be growth. If you focused on profitability, one way to be profitable is to grow. Another way to be profitable is to innovate. Another way to be profitable is and there are lots of ways to be profitable. Growth is not the only way to be profitable. Another way is whatever profit I'm making, that's enough. The Tatas go for a 10% return on their investment. They don't go for a larger return on their investment than that. And the Tatas are owned by the Tata Trust. So there is a model there that has been around for a long time and has provided service to society and makes a difference. Let me just suggest this one thing, Mani, to you and to everybody else. If you as a company were not providing a service, then you would not be able to survive.
Yeah, that's true.
The main point is, what is the service you're providing? And people have forgotten that in the financial markets, the service is for the guy who owns shares so they can make more money. But they can make more money only if their companies are providing a service. But they don't care about it because they buy a stock today and sell it tomorrow. And the people who own their companies don't do that. They play a long game.
Yeah.
They look in the long term. So there are lots of things. I would invite you to start opening your mind.
Sure.
To what else is possible, what else is there. And really the way you're opening your mind is you come up against a barrier called, I don't believe that. That's nonsense. That doesn't make any sense. If it's nonsense, then that's good. Then start exploring it. Because maybe it's nonsense because of the view from which you're looking at it. And maybe if you looked at it from another view, it won't be nonsense anymore.
Oh, great thought. Thank you. One more thing, you talked about inequality. How can we eradicate that? It's very difficult, isn't it?
If something is difficult, it doesn't mean you shouldn't work on it, right?
Yeah, that's true. But
and also to answer your question, I have no idea how you eradicate it. I'm not even saying we should eradicate it. I'm saying it is causing huge damage to society and it's just getting worse. At the very least, it needs to get less. The inequity, the difference between the rich and the poor, the 1% and the 99%, that's a huge difference.
So you are advocating communism then?
No, I'm not. If you know anything about communism, you know I'm not advocating communism.
No, then you have to distribute the wealth to the from the rich to the
poor.
No,
I'm not doing that. I never said you should do that. I just said the inequality is appalling and it is killing our society. And just like the growth model is killing our society, at some point, the whole bubble will burst and the climate change will come and the heavens will open and the rains will be so much that you won't know what to do with it. And then, of course, you can say, oh, but somebody else didn't do something. They didn't build the dams. That's why it happened. But you're not paying attention to that you have been supporting a model of growth, unlimited growth, and you're not paying attention to you've been supporting a model that tolerates inequality, and you see your fellow man on the street and you see people, today the person who worked in your house, either he's living in the slum or they came from another state to work where you are, and then they decided that they have to go back, and now they're stopped at the border. Yeah. What are they going to do? They will die there. and their family won't even know where they are buried when they die or burned when they die. This is a situation you and me are facing today. You know, Arundhati Roy wrote an article recently. It'd be useful to read that article. Now, that may be her point of view, and you may not agree with Arundhati, and you may say, oh yeah, she's a communist, she's a this, she's a that. That's what they do in America. They want to put somebody down, they call them a communist.
Anyway, I differ very much differ with her actually. So that's different story.
Yeah, then therefore read her article. You might find that you have to open your mind to listen to what she's saying.
Yeah, sure.
You know.
Yeah. Hopefully, I think you will visit Bahrain, and I will able to.
Oh, you invite me, I'll come.
Sanjay has to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, Sanjay is happy to do it. Sanjay, catch hold of Mani. Ask him to invite us. Okay, we'll be happy to come. But Mani, thank you for engaging in the conversation. I appreciate that. Okay.
Thank you.
It seems
iPhone. Can I have a minute? Yeah.
Oh yeah, it says iPhone raised your hand. Is that you? No.
No, not me, Ferdy.
It's somebody else. Yes,
let's have iPhone first. We already spoke.
Okay.
Let's have iPhone.
iPhone. Yeah. Who's iPhone? Somebody. Yes, please go ahead.
My name is Madhukar Shenoy. I was invited by Rashmi Sharma. Now, I just want to comment and say these are great perspectives. Your approach is very simplistic, although the model can be complex. But this is a great time to start looking at opportunities to come to where you want to get to.
Very good. Great. Thank you very much. And the truth is, there are no answers, okay? But that doesn't mean to say we can't engage in creating some answers. Very good. Thanks. All right.
A minute for me?
Yeah. Yes. We'll have you, and then we're going to have to wrap up, okay? I'm sorry, the two participants who raised your hands. I'm sorry, guys. Yes, please.
Ferdy, we just have 2 minutes, Ferdy.
Yeah, first Jayashree, all right?
Yeah, so Ferdy, quickly, I had this vision of, involving, because I work with the people affected by leprosy because I myself was one of the persons affected. And I'm so happy today I have Matthias and Amar joined. And then there is also Preeta Biswas, who's heading a project of leprosy in Odisha. And what I saw was, we were discussing this, that people affected by leprosy were always in lockdown because they were marginalized and they have lived this life, and so it's for them to understand. It's very easy for people affected to understand this thing easily. So there is this paradigm, shift, because you can consider yourself locked down in a home or in a community or in a, the whole world is one.
Yes.
And this whole thing about, the whole thing is about this watching from the space, the earth as a pale blue dot that we have read about, and seeing the whole thing just shows that when the horizon opens up, the universe is one family. Yes. But if I lived in my house and did not know the earth is round and thought it's flat and my home is the border of my house is the border of the earth, then I would behave very differently.
Yeah.
So this gives us an opportunity to really go beyond how we relate and start looking from outward in. Very and, I also wouldn't want to read Arundhati Roy. I don't like her personally, But then what I'm questioning is, what don't I like? What am I not willing to let in? And this just throws open a whole lot of, thinking and a whole lot of re-educating myself and also the people around me. So it was a good opportunity.
Yeah, very good. And that article by Arundhati Roy is not about Arundhati or her perspective. It's about what is happening in the country today. And it'll be useful to see, because if that is what is happening in the country today, it's a shame. And it shouldn't be happening. But if it isn't happening and she's saying it's happening, then that's rubbish. But we can at least be open to the idea. There were two people who raised their hands, and I said there's no time, but it seems there are a couple of more minutes. So can you just start speaking, whoever's raised their hand earlier, electronically? No? Okay. They might have forgotten who they are. Two participants raised hands. Yeah, those two participants, please. iPhone and Gavin. Gavin, I think I've heard iPhone. So Gavin?
Hi.
Oh, Gavin. I thought it was Gavin, but never mind. It's
Gavin,
it's prettier Gavin.
Hi, Ferdy. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Very good. I'm just chanced by a friend who happened to...
Hey, this is my godchild. Hey, how are you? It's good to see you.
Good.
I thought I recognized you.
I said you're more than welcome in Bahrain because I'm here
Yes,
anytime.
I should come. Yes, I definitely should come.
I know you don't have too many minutes, but I just wanted to say I agree with a lot of people here, and I'm just happy that a lot of new thinking, new skills, new systems, a lot of things have to, at least it's a start, you know. COVID
Yes, yes,
19 pushed us into it. It was
yes.
supposed to come much earlier, but now we are thrown into it. We have to start, you know, coming up with new things.
Fantastic,
You
fantastic.
know, I got a lot from the, I don't want to repeat the whole thing, but yes, the whole video about the earth also just showing how inconspicuous we are in compared to the universe, and how we as the earth should stick together, you know.
Yes,
But yeah, I'm so happy to first time hearing you and you talk actually on a out of a personal note, so it was wonderful professionally to hear you.
great, great. It's lovely. It's so you. I can't tell you how much I appreciate seeing you on the call. Give my love to Albert and Lalita, will you?
Sure, I will.
Okay, and also to Gavin and your son.
Yes,
Okay,
thank you.
you're welcome. Thank you very much.
We'll connect again later.
Yeah, we should. We should.
Yeah.
Hey, okay, Sanjay. I think we have come to the end of our time, aren't we?
Yes.
Okay, you want to wrap it up?
Uh, yeah, I can. I mean, the future is basically is always been the. I mean, the world has always been volatile, and it will continue to be volatile, whether COVID or not. With the advent of artificial intelligence, big data, every day some new changes coming up. So there is a future which will emerge basically, irrespective of whether you see it or not. Is basically, as you said, that we need to look at it, take it on a face on. And in this time when the things are volatile, it's the time where we need to look at opportunities uh, and look at where the future wants to emerge. There will be certain areas that there will be a lot of opportunities, whether it being healthcare, into areas of technology, into certain other areas as well, environmental shifts basically, and also where there is a lot of more listening that will happen with people, because when most of them have been sitting at home, so they have given time for their self. So there is a lot of the disconnect which was there, which you explained in your first slide. The three divides have actually come a little closer in this current COVID situation, actually, according to me.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
And
And Sanjay, I really want to take the opportunity to thank everybody who's on the call. I really appreciate you taking 2 hours out of the time, which you're going to be doing nothing anyway. But still, thank you for spending 2 hours with me on this call and engaging as attentively as you've been engaging. And I appreciate that. Now, for those of you who are interested in developing your leadership in this kind of model, we are starting a new leadership development program online starting from the 28th of April. It goes over 10 sessions and it's 2.5 hours per session. If you just get back in touch with the person who invited you to come on this call, they can tell you more about it, or you just get in touch with me if you've got my contact details, and I'll be happy to let you know about it. Okay. But otherwise, I hope you stay in touch, and we need to transform the world, so we should go ahead and do that. Okay. And Sanjay, thank you so much
thank you,
for
Fadi.
thank you so much for creating this event. I appreciate it. Okay,
Thank you,
everybody,
everyone. Thank you,
if you just
Fadi.
have to
Thank
sign
you,
off.
Fadi. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Sanjay. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Fadi. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Hi, Anil.
Hey, Chandrika, I hope I see you sometime. I can't hear you because you're on mute.
Are you coming to India?
Well, I was to be in India at this time, but they blocked me out. Didn't allow anybody to come.
I know.
I was to be in Delhi and some other places.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Good, you give a call when you're in India. We'll see.
We can talk even when I'm not in India, Chandrika.
That's true. That's true.
You know, we don't have to be in the same country to talk.
Nah, I thought of meeting you. Wherever you
Meeting,
are.
right. Meet online. Tell me, and we'll meet online anytime. Nowadays, you know, you have to keep social distancing. You can't meet in person.
Fadi, you want me to be on the line or I leave the meeting?
No, just stay for a bit until everybody is left and then we'll wrap up.
Okay, Fadi.
I think we'll have to stop the recording.
Yeah, thanks.
Yes.